Welcome everyone to Opera on Tap's Spill the Tea. Kelley and I know I got my cup, I got my little tea.
Diva.
Yes, I am prepared today.
Oh my gosh, we are sipping and spilling. I love it.
I know, and we've got a lot today to chat about.
Yes.
Before we really get into the tea, Kelley and I wanted to give you a little preview of some of the music from the Marriage of Figaro. We sang the duet, Sularia.
The letter duet, as it's sometimes known. Yes.
Yes, yes. And Kelley sings Susanna, and I sing the Countess. And yeah, this is a letter meant to trick the Count. Much longer involved story.
Yeah, like basically they are scamming the Count. Well, not scamming, but no, they are fooling the Count with like this sort of fake like letter, like to meet all these details of like meet in the garden under the peony, under the pines, and
he thinks he's going to meet Susanna, but really we end up, as you'll find out later in the opera, we switch clothes and he's actually going to meet his wife that he thinks is the maid.
Exactly. So, I mean, scandalous, these women playing a trick on this like powerful man and scheming. It's it would have been scandalous at the time.
True.
So, yeah.
True. So we hope you enjoy a little taste of this duet before we get into a little more tea. So enjoy.
Enjoy.
get started. So today's topic, we are talking about the infamous, scandalous dispute, I guess we can call it, Kelley, between Kathleen Battle and Carol Vaness. This took place while they were rehearsing for the opera The Marriage of Figaro, Le Nozze di Figaro. We can get into a little about each of the singers. Maybe we'll start.
Yes. So yes, let's just say Kathleen Battle. She was born in Portsmouth, Ohio, in 1948. She attended CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. She sang, I think one of her earliest gigs was at Spoleto. She sang Brahms Requiem. She was very known for her Baroque classical concert repertoire. She made a lot of Bach, Handel recordings. That's how I think of her. And her
I had one of her earlier CDs. Well, not earlier, but when I was a young singer, I had one of her CDs called Grace, which was just gorgeous. Amazing voice. Amazing.
Yeah. No, just a really exciting, bright, beautiful voice. She's known for doing the Ina roles, a lot of those. But she brought sort of depth and beauty to it. Her first Met role was the shepherdess or the shepherd in Tannhäuser, 1977. She's been nominated and won several Grammys. She did a lot of recitals. She did, one of her most famous was with Jesse Norman. They did a spirituals concert at Carnegie, which you can, I think, still watch some of on YouTube, which is just amazing.
She also did some stuff with and his name is escaping me right now, the trumpet player.
Yes, the jazz and
Marcellus, Wynton. I think it's Wynton Marcellus.
Yeah.
She did a lot because I found some recordings when I was in school of her doing some duets with him. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And then we have Carol Vaness, who was born July 27th, the day before my birthday.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yes, we realized that they're both Leos. Both of these women, which we're discussing, are Leos, which I feel is somewhat significant, but
for sure. The fire in the Leo is real. So yes, definitely a Leo, born in 1952. Lirito Spinto voice. She was born in San Diego and launched her professional career in 1977 with San Francisco Opera. She made her Met debut in 1984 and has sung at many, many opera houses in Europe. Very well-known singer. She was particularly known for her Mozart operatic roles, which is probably why she was singing Countess at the Met this particular year. She's become especially identifiable with the role of Tosca, which she performed in the Met in 2004 against the amazing, and I don't know, there aren't words to explain him, Luciano Pavarotti.
The legend.
The legend. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
The amazing, incomparable. So some of her notable career performances were she was Vitellia in San Francisco Spring Opera. At the Met and Paris Opera, Royal Opera Garden, Lyric Opera of Chicago, Salzburg Festival, lots of theaters. And she teaches in Indiana University, where we know a lot of amazing singers come from. And she's a tenured professor working with various students, as well as conducting in the opera workshops. So she's very much still in the scene.
Oh yeah.
Doing a lot to bring new singers, up and coming singers, out into the performance world.
My one of my grad school voice teacher was Carol Vaness's roommate in New York. They lived together for a time, and I feel like it was like somewhat around this time actually. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Ooh, I bet she's got some tea on that.
We should have her spill some tea.
I know, right?
I bet she could. Yeah.
If not about this, I'm sure about some other things.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, actually I did the Met competition a few years back, and she was one of the judges, and I got to like chat with her like super briefly, like, and get feedback, and she was like super knowledgeable. I remember she just like had a ton of advice for like the arias, because I think I was doing like Fior di Legge or something, and so yeah, she just like had a lot she wanted to share, which was very nice. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I love it when they're friendly and like actually have a conversation with you. And
yeah, and they want to like impart knowledge and not just like bask in what in whatever. So
right, they don't make you feel like you're small.
Yeah.
Tell me about you. Yeah, I love that experience. It's nice. Too bad I haven't met Kathleen Battle to see if that would have been the experience.
That would be. I know. I've met like people who have worked with her, but I've never had the opportunity.
Nothing.
No.
Everything's hearsay, which brings us to today.
Yes. I feel like we love like, because it's opera, like we love turning like people into like heroes and villains, like real people, like with like like we said, like Pavarotti, the legend, like we love to create legends and stories and like figures with these people, and it's like, well, they're people, so they're human, so like what's legendary, what's real, what's not,
Right. Everyone has their faults. And I feel like, especially with opera singers or people who are famous in general, we put them on this pedestal, that they can do no wrong. And they can, because like you said, they're human. They're just like us. They just became famous for their talents.
Yeah. And opera is a high pressure situation. You're dealing with a lot. You're dealing with a lot of personalities. I mean, you're an opera, you're working, you have whole crews of people, not just the performers. We have like all the staff, all the administrators, and it's like, it's a, that depending on like what that environment is like that can affect like how you are within that environment, I feel like,
So true. So true.
Yes.
And who knows, back, so this particular incident was in 1985 at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City.
Yes.
And I guess there's several things to discuss here. What's important to know is that Carol Vaness was singing the role of the Countess, which was royalty in the opera, and Kathleen Battle singing the role of Susanna, which was the servant.
But
Susanna
Susanna's the biggest. I mean, it's what people say is like it's the longest opera role like in the canon. Like she has more material than anybody else in the show, like more stage time. So
for sure, she's like always there.
Yeah, she's always there. She's always doing something. I mean, she really just like, I feel like a Susanna, like it just makes that 4-act opera like not feel like 4-act, it's like it just makes it feel like exciting depending on Susanna. So
right. So I mean, I feel like it should be called the Marriage of Susanna. I mean,
right.
Like why is it called the Marriage of Figaro? He's not like, I mean,
it's her marriage,
but
exactly. It's not the title of the show isn't my boss's marriage troubles.
Exactly. Exactly. I always wondered that the first time I did it. It was like, well, this is odd.
Yeah.
Other than him starting the opera, it's definitely not his opera.
No, and like, yeah. So like in the trilogy, you have the Beaumarchet Trilogy. This is the second one, and it's everything that's already happened in Barber of Seville. We now have led here. Figaro's about to marry Susanna. Count and Countess are having marriage troubles, and it's really, I mean, I think this opera, like, people love this opera because of like the class division aspects of it, you know, like seeing at the time and even now, seeing people like stepping out of the place that we've put them in, like scandal, you know, and like that doesn't ever go away. And this is, yeah.
And a whole side tangent, which we could do a whole nother tea on, but you know, Mozart liked to kind of focus on his female characters and the development of them. And I feel like this is a great example of Susanna and the Countess kind of getting one up on the Count and Figaro, and you know, it ends up going back and forth.
Yeah.
We'll spare the details of that. If you have not seen it, you should see it, or at least read the synopsis.
You can still watch it, actually. You can still watch this very production that we're talking about, the 1985, with, okay, I think I have the stars. Do I have the stars written down?
Yes, the male.
The men, the women. So we have Flicka, Frederica Fonchata,
which would be amazing.
Yes, playing Carabino.
Ruggiero Raimondi.
Oh, here they are. Yes. As Figaro, Thomas Allen as the Count. Big daddy energy from him always. And conducted by
he who shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
We don't talk about anymore.
We don't talk about him anymore. And talk about another like legend, built up legend.
That's another tea. We should do.
That's another tea. We should do a tea on that.
That's a lot.
Yeah. No, totally. So yeah. So that's where we are. Got this production. It's the Count. The Countess, Carol Vaness, is a few years younger than Kathleen Battle. Kathleen Battle had been singing at the Met for longer at that point and was a little older, also probably a factor. And what happens?
Well, so ultimately, and again, this is all he said, she said, none of us were there. We don't know, which is why this is such a great topic. But ultimately, and you fill in, Kelley, Kathleen Battle was upset about her dressing room. She did not receive the first dressing room, which I think was larger, right, Kelley?
Probably. Just dressing number one, so I imagine it's probably slightly larger.
Yeah. Right, more established singer, if you will. I won't speak to talent because it's not my place to speak to that, but had been singing longer, as Kelley said, and did not receive dressing room number one, was upset about it. So while Carol was on stage, I don't know which scene she was rehearsing, but she was on stage when Susanna was not, which doesn't happen a lot, I think, where she doesn't come in pretty close after that. And she took all of her items, all of her clothes, and threw them in the hallway.
Right.
And put her stuff in there, right? Just basically took over and said, this is mine now.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I've heard, so I tried to pull like, because I really wanted to find out if this was like true, and I tried to pull like literally every article that mentions it, and the thing is, like, with this and with like others too, like every recounting just differs slightly, you know, and it's like the detail of her being on the stage or not, or like of her, if she was even there that day or not. Like I've heard that Kathleen threw the items in the hallway. I also have heard like she possibly just asked them to remove them and relocate it, and they did it. So, but yes, a relocation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very different situation. Like asking for them to relocate it versus her actually
physically doing.
doing it. Yeah.
Right.
That's way more of a diva move.
Right. And it just gives you this whole, like, the throwing, it's just like this picture in your head and you're like, oh my God, you know, and yeah. Let me grab, so a lot, I read a lot from this book. It's called Molto Agitato, and it's by Joanna Fiedler, who is Arthur Fiedler's daughter. He like was like the big Boston Pops like daddy for a long time, and so she like, this whole book is like I like it and I don't, because it's kind of gossipy, and the language is also like not totally great. Like she even, there's like a explicit like line in here where she's talking about Kathleen Battle. She said, let me find it. Please hold. Because she like, yeah, an example, talking about Kathleen Battle, an exemplary role model for young Black women entering a white environment. Basically calling classical music a white environment, just like off the bat. And like, which I was just like, whoa, that's, I mean.
Yeah, like, does she, and you wonder, how does she mean that? Is it's predominantly white, but it's not a white, you know what I mean?
Right. And it's like, it's just, it goes back to like this white kind of, yeah, like whitewashing of classical music history, and just whitewashing of like the people, like think about the people who were performing at this time. Like Jesse Norman was like working at the Met, you know. They also talk about Maria Ewing, who was Black as well, you know. So so the language in this, like, this book gives some good interesting information about the Met, and it also like brings in the relationship of like the director and the conductor and like the whole board and everything that plays into that. Like we tend to think of everything just in terms of like the artistic staff, when there's so much more like money and rich people and donor, like just like other things that play. So this book gives some good information, but it also kind of like feeds into like what we're talking about here. So
Right.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, you know, as we know, there are a lot of people that go into putting a production on. So there were people who were there and clearly know what happened, you know. So why is there all this scandal around? Did Kathleen put the stuff in the hallway? Did she ask someone to remove the stuff? You know, like, where's the truth in that? And where are those people? Because I'm sure there are a ton of people who actually know what happened.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, whichever wardrobe, I mean, yeah, there were people there, but then it's like, how are we going to present this? And this particularly, I mean, I feel like I learned about this before I learned who Kathleen Battle was. Like when I was like a young singer in college, like learning about, they're like, oh, Kathleen Battle, she was blah blah blah, and she did this and that, and it's just like, I mean, you say one thing and it just like grows, and now it's like this monster that is, you know, followed her around. And it's not to say that maybe, you know, like there's a ton of stuff too about her like leaving rehearsals early and like backing out because of vocal issues. And so, you know, there's some truth in this, but it's also like, you know, there's also some non-truth in it, I think. So yeah.
It's like the telephone game. Things just grow until it becomes just not truthful anymore. And we don't know where that line is. And, you know, and then I think about this, because I learned about this before I really knew who she was, because of Trivial Pursuit. Do you remember that game?
Oh my God.
Or Trivia Pursuit, I think it's
called.
It was an actual question. I was in college with friends, and we'd gone to New York to see an opera. I don't even remember which one. We were in our hotel room. We were playing Trivia Pursuit, and it asked which opera singer was kicked out of the Met for their diva-like ways. And I will never forget that to this day. And I'm thinking, but I knew it. I'm like, oh, it's Kathleen Battle. I didn't know anything about her singing, anything about her career, but I knew that fact.
That's amazing. That's just like, we're deciding as a culture, like, this is the thing, and like, here we go. And like,
right.
That's wild.
Crazy. And then it makes me wonder, if it were two men, if it were the Count and Figaro, would it be what it is?
No, and I can't even think of two men where that could have ever happened. Like, I'm just thinking of like yeah, no, I can't think of any men where that would happen. And because I feel like we just sort of like yield to men, like we're just trained to kind of yield to what they want. And yeah,
And they're
I
not
think,
seen, they're not
yeah,
seen as divas. Like I imagine Pavarotti, I'm sure he was not simple to deal with all the time.
no, yeah. Didn't they fire him? I think they fired him or no, I don't think, no, at Lyric in Chicago, they fired him, but not at the Met, I don't think.
Really? I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah, for like he canceled too many times, and so they were like, no, which is interesting because I should check that. I don't know if he's been fired from the Met, but like the book talks about Hollis was fired from the Met. Obviously Kathleen Battle, so she wasn't fired for this, but she was fired a few seasons later when reportedly her diva behavior was out of control.
Right. It's in the 90s, right? 96
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, 96. Hold on. Maybe like 94.
Is it 94?
Yeah.
Unprofessional behavior and the daughter of the regiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's see.
She showed up late for rehearsals, repeatedly changing her mind about whether she liked her costume. No one's ever asked me if I like my costume. I guess that's the diva status that she was at.
My goodness, like I'm trying to like find some quotes here. I mean, and it's crazy too how like the article, like every article I pulled up to, like a lot of them will just sort of like willingly just repeat the same stories, and there are like several stories. There's legends. So this is from Newsweek, 1994. Legends about Battle are retailed gleefully, but not always authoritatively. The board member who calls her a wretched human being, for instance, says he never actually saw her misbehave. Did Battle really throw soprano Carol Vaness's clothes out of the Met dressing room one, or did she have a dresser move them elsewhere? It's said that Leonard Slatkin refuses to conduct Battle again. Slatkin denies he's had problems with her and says she once sang with him at 8 hours after she'd had a root canal. Then there's the limo story. I've seen the limo story. The diva
Clinton
uses her car phone to call her agent, to call the opera house, to call the driver to tell him to slow down. Or was it to adjust the heat? Or did it happen at all? The nature of the lady is such that I imagine a good number of these are probably not true, says the board member, but probably a good number of them are. Like,
I was thinking of the when she sang for Clinton's inaugural ball, she turned away the limo because it was too small.
Too small, yes. Speaking of inauguration, yes. I mean,
I know. January, 3 days later.
Yes.
That's crazy. I remember, I think that, I feel like for me, that was the first time seeing her again after all of this drama was Clinton's inauguration. Like, oh, yeah. She came out of the woodwork.
Oh.
Like, oh, there she is.
Right. Well, so after this, yeah, she's only returned to the Met once. They've let her back, but she did I guess a concert of spirituals, which I remember when this happened like a few years ago. Yeah.
And that brings me to one of my thoughts is, did she deserve to be ostracized over this? Because I feel like even if she, even if these other stories are true, this was really kind of the story that followed her forever. And I think ultimately, even though she wasn't fired from the Met for, years later, but I feel like that was kind of the downfall of her career. People just didn't want to work with her anymore, which is a shame because I feel like other singers have done way worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still have careers today.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even like some crimes even, and they still have careers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, so the way like the book presents it, it's like you have this incident, and then so they did this, and then they did it again, the same production in Japan. They took it on tour. So it wasn't like they were just like done with each other after it. Like they had to like go back and do it and stuff. And like reportedly, like let me find the quote, but like there's there's this, and then there's a Rosencave, which there's reports of like her asking like food, like the dressing room and makeup staff to like fetch her food and drinks and stuff, and they actually, one of the lighting guys ends up during her aria basically not turning on the spotlight, so that she has to do it in the dark, basically, because his wife was one of the dressing room workers. Like, so you have like that now, people in the Met community actively hating her. And then the next year you have the one that actually caused her to get fired, which was Daughter of the Regiment. She like, and she pulled out of Rosencap too, I think she like pulled out last minute, which was like, they weren't happy about that. And then you have Daughter, where she like requested that they were, I think, replace, or she just had a problem with one of the onstage people. Her name was Elias. Last name was Elias. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, and then they fired her, basically. So
that, and the thing is that you mentioned two people who said that they actually hadn't had negative experiences with her. But yet all of this is considered to be fact. So like, I wonder if we could talk to Carol Vaness today, what she would actually say about her experience.
Right.
I haven't heard anything from her.
No, there's a quote in this book where Beverly Sills actually says something about Kathleen Battle. She says, "I think she's terrified," and I am at like, I had like not an experience like this, but I had a bad experience with another soprano like back in the day, and you know, looking back on it now, like if I saw her again, we'd be fine. But I think like it's the environment you're in, and when you just feel very much pitted against another woman, another soprano, like you can just, you know, if you're already kind of like in not the best place, like kind of like a damaged sort of, or just like a not your strongest place, I think you could really feel pushed against a wall and like act out. You know, if that's understandable to me, I feel like.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see if she saw her as a threat in some way, and we don't know what else was going on. But I also think we need to remember that the opera world created this. An opera singer only gets to be as diva-like as they're allowed to be. So, you know, if people nipped it in the bud from the start, and I don't even know how to one would do that, but I feel like if she was told no a lot more in the beginning, then maybe she wouldn't feel like she could do this, because opera singers still need to sing to make money. You know, so I mean, if you're not singing performances, you're not making money, and therefore you're not, you know, a diva at the top of your career. And I mean, again, I don't work at the Met, I can't speak the fact, but my thought is that clearly some companies let her get away with some things, and then it progressed. Or it's just a huge game of telephone that rolled into an awful, horrible thing where that's interesting that Beverly Sills said she was terrified. That's an interesting word to use.
Yeah. I mean, probably just feeling, you know, just pressure to be perfect, you know. I mean, I think that's just every singer has that somewhat of that or experiences that at a time. And, you know, imagine feeling that pressure amongst like just all these like growing like horror stories about you. And,
Right.
you know, yeah. And then also just like she later, like as her career kind of goes on, she starts kind of canceling like here and there, and it's, you know, for vocal issues and stuff, and like
Mm.
that's a thing, you know,
Mhm.
like that's something even Carol Vaness like experienced. She like stopped singing on stage, I'm pretty sure, and like I think it was Traviata, she was like in the middle of the aria and she like didn't finish it, she's like, I
Well,
can't. Yeah.
I
Like
guess it's
that's,
better than a horrible performance if it was that bad. I mean,
yeah, but I think like, you know, if you actually have like vocal health issues, or if you just have like mental vocal health issues, like, you know, that can be a thing too.
that's totally a thing. But there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong. But if you think it's wrong, it will be wrong.
Yeah, and then you just like you feel like you can't do it, and then you back out, and then people are like, oh, they're backing out, and it's just like, yeah,
They're human. If you go
they're
back to the
human.
beginning, they are human. Our bodies are our instruments. Anything, stress, you know, family drama, family issue, you know, anything can affect your voice.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a flute player, okay, maybe your mind is elsewhere, but you can still get up and do that concert. Probably be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect you.
You are so exposed, and like you are so just like vulnerable, like out of 10, and just like working, and like on stage you have like adrenaline it's just like a lot. And then it's also, you know, you're going to hours of rehearsals, and like that's, you aren't just rehearsing there, like you're also kind of like, you ever like go in and you like, you know, you have to almost like kind of like, I've been in settings where I feel like I have to kind of like not like police my actions, but I just have to be kind of like, it's a new setting, like I don't know who these people are, I don't, you know, um that can be, that's the thing. Have you ever
Yes,
had
because
like,
you're,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I just think you're creating a name for yourself. However you act and whatever comes out of your mouth or doesn't come out of your mouth will follow you, and that's what people will see you as. So yeah,
You give up so much control of your own image and your own, yeah. Have you ever had like issues with, you know, working with another woman or soprano, or where you felt like, or just in an environment where you just didn't feel the best? Have you ever?
yes. I've often felt like the underdog because my first voice lesson was when I was applying for college. Like I just, you know, so I always, and probably rightfully so, felt like the underdog, and I had so much catching up. So I think some of it was probably in my head, and some of it was, you know, because I didn't know certain things in grad school. I didn't know what upstage and downstage meant. You know, I was
You
like,
don't know
what?
until you do it, you know?
Right,
Like,
right. We didn't do full operas when I was an undergrad. It was just scenes, and there was no upstage, downstage. So little things like that, and then how other singers, other sopranos specifically, I found would treat me would be, you know, well, she, you know, she's not talented, or she doesn't know what she's doing, so I'm just going to dismiss her type of attitude. And it makes you feel really crummy when you have to get up and perform. So perhaps, you know, in Kathleen's instance, maybe it was a matter of, I feel I have something to prove. You know, that's a thought. I mean, I've heard things from my voice teacher in undergrad and several others, you know, you couldn't hear Kathleen Battle past, you know, the orchestra. And I'm thinking, well, that can't be true because clearly they kept hiring her.
Right. Well, yeah, there was talk about like, because if you look at this production, the sets are really big. They're just sort of cavernous. And you know, like, yeah, I feel like there was always, I think Levine tried to maybe push her into heavier stuff as she was going on. And you know, there's only so far like you can go, but yeah.
Right. Without damaging your voice.
Yeah, you know, there's like, you know, I think it's so like, even in school too, like they're like, how heavy can, like, what is the heaviest, like you're going to end up, you know, and it's all like, how big can we get you? How heavy can, and it's just like, why don't we just work with the voices we have right now?
Right. And as the voice grows, we'll continue to grow the repertoire.
Yeah.
Look at that logic.
Wow.
What a thought.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Crazy. This is craziness. I don't know. I don't have any thoughts other than I wish we had the two of them here with us today.
You know, I don't think like Kathleen's really talking to the press or either of them in this way, rather. I mean, yeah. It seems like Carol is still sort of beloved, and like Kathleen is kind of, you know, she's retreated. You know,
to what? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like,
it's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a gorgeous voice.
Gorgeous voice. Yeah, she was a music teacher too. I think that's how she started. That's what she was doing when Levine met her, and sort of Levine, I guess, kind of like picked her and broke her onto the scene and stuff like that. And so
I'm sure that helps with the diva attitude as well when you're handpicked.
Yeah. Yeah, handpicked, and you also have like according to this book, like Levine would just like, he was just like a talker, and he's just like, we're gonna do this project, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do this role, and like sometimes it would happen, and like, but a lot of times it wouldn't. And
I've dealt with those conductors.
Yeah. Just like, wow, how all the ideas. But just like, he wasn't, when she was fired, so she was fired by Volpe, who was the general manager at the time, and the artistic director was Levine, but he was in Florida at the time, and so he kind of just like washed his hands of it. He said like, don't fire her, but like Volpe was just like, no, I'm gonna like take a stand. And supposedly everyone was rejoicing after, like there's reports of just the artistic staff just like celebrating, and so that's kind of like sad, but interesting. Yeah.
And is it like 3 people, or is it really
right
staff?
Right. I mean, there's reports of like, she was like, I want all my exits to be on this side, else. And I want like near my dressing room. And there's reports of like, her like not showing up to things or leaving things early, which, yeah.
Can't be doing that.
Can't be doing that. Although, like, if you've done the role a bunch of times, like, I get it. But like, but also like, no, like they want, like, there's also like, they want you to feel like a team and like on the team, and they want you to play a role. They want you to play like the loving diva role where you just do everything everyone tells you, and you're so happy, and just, you want to like chat with everybody all the time. And, but like, it's high pressure. You're doing a starring role at the Met, and you're like, holy shit,
And you probably have like, I mean, I've never done a starring role at the Met, but I imagine there's, I imagine there's publicity and maybe photo shoots and interviews and, things that come along with, if not that performance, your next performance, or CV, if you got to do studio time.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
That there's more than that at rehearsal, and it should be scheduled around that. Granted.
I mean, you should try and be as much of a team player as you can be. Yeah. But I think what your point about like, letting her do so much, like, not saying no, like that's a thing too. That's an aspect of this. So.
Exactly, especially at the Met. I mean, I feel like they have so many singers at that level that if she's, throwing some diva-like ways that are just not tolerable, okay, I'm sure she had an understudy. Next, and I feel like if anything, the diva should be the Met.
Right.
They have that, like they have the ability to pick from probably hundreds of singers that could do it equally as well. So that all have names just as out there as hers.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not how it works.
No. I mean, I think, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I mean, they want to make money, and if she's sort of like, 'cause if she's like backing out of things and being like not dependable, like they want to watch their money, and we don't think of it like that. We think of like, oh, just like the love of the art, and like that's what everyone's doing this for, and it's like, no. No, this is like, they are like bankers and like a board of people who like just care about kind of growing their status and their wealth, and that's
exactly.
what this book sort of starts from, that perspective, which I think is interesting, but it's also like, it's a little gossipy, like I said. So but yeah,
I have to read it. That's interesting. It's interesting.
Just interesting.
Well, Ms. Battle and Ms. Vaness. Oh, how we wish we were there.
We will still listen to all your music that is out there, because it's great. Like, it's recording excellence, truly.
For sure. And as Kelley said, it is still available if you want to see the 1985 performance of The Marriage of Figaro with Kathleen Battle and Carol Vaness. Maybe you'll see some hidden tension on stage. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it's worth seeing. Definitely.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up our tea today?
Let's see if there's any like quotes I want to get in or anything. Wonder I could like read like what Carol Vaness said to her at the end of it.
Oh yeah, that's a good wrap up. Her side hasn't been represented because we don't really have it.
No. What page was it? Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, when they finally, on the night of the final performance in Tokyo, the cast gathered on stage for the curtain calls. When the applause died away and the curtain came down for the last time, the singers hugged one another, tired yet exuberant after the ovation they had received. Levine stood talking to Battle as Vaness approached. "Kathy," she said in a cold, firm voice, "I want you to know that I've instructed my manager that I will never sing with you again. You are the most horrible colleague I've encountered in my whole career." So in quotes. Vaness is close to 6 feet tall in high heels, and she turned away with her customary stateliness. Everyone's eyes were riveted on her. Battle turned to Levine, who put his arm around her shoulders and began guiding her off stage. Her pretty face twisted in astonishment. Battle cried over and over, "What did I do? I've never done anything to her." Levine patted her shoulder and everyone else looked away. Vaness had just become the company heroine. The story of her spunk passed into Met legend.
Wow.
Wow.
That says a lot.
That says a lot.
Isn't Kathleen Battle like 5 feet tall?
Yeah, she's like
she's really short.
She's very short, and you can and Carol has like big hair in the production too, so she looks even a lot taller than her. She's funny. Yeah, I mean,
that just says so much.
It does. I mean, tensions were high, and like it's hard. Like if you're trying to be vulnerable with someone on the stage and have like that connection and communion, and like, but you just aren't in the same sort of universe, like mentally, like just in the same like reality, I guess. Like Kathleen's in her own world, Carol's in her own world. It can be can feel like, yeah, like
it's gotta be a stressful tour.
Yeah.
Travel through Tokyo with a cast that you don't get along with.
Yeah, in a foreign country too, like that's gonna be like the card, and you have your translator and all of that.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Yes.
The infamous tale, and a little more dirt on what went down, or maybe what didn't go down. You know, what do you think happened?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah.
And do you think that who is the true star of the Marriage of Figaro? Indeed. Let us know.
That's a good question. That's a great poll.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do like an Instagram poll or something of that, because yeah, it is. You don't even see the Countess until the second act. So
Right? She opens act 2, so it can't be her.
Yeah.
I think it's Susanna. That would be mine.
I would think so too. So
true story.
yeah.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Ow.